every business in this room has two licenses. One is a regulatory license, the one that is compliant, and the one that we file in a cabinet. And then there's an important license that we hold. And I would argue that license is the most important KPI for most professionals in this room. That license has no certificate. And that license is judged and issued every day by the public, by employees, and by government. And most importantly, by the communities whose trust we borrow every time we operate in their countries. And this license does not have a certificate. It cannot be renewed by paying a fee. And I want to be direct with you that this license is owned by corporate affairs to protect, not by legal, not by risk, but by us. If we accept that responsibility only when we say it aloud, then and abandon it the moment it requires us walking into the boardroom and telling Sarale, we are not going to do that, then we are the decorators of it. And decoration does not build trust. It borrows it until the bill arrives. You know, I grew up in a village called Batlile in Limpopo. Majority of you, when someone says that, you say, oh, you go home. No, Batlile, because we like landmarks. And I was raised in a household where every promise was measured by whether it was kept, not by how beautifully it was phrased. And you can tell I was raised by a grandmother, keeping promises. And I don't tell you this as a memory for Gala. It's an operating principle I carried into every boardroom I've sat ever since. Because people in the villages do not read our annual reports. They don't read our integrated reports. They don't read our sustainability reports. We have our own way of reading institutions. For example, if an organization comes to the village and tell us that they are going to give us a bursary, we are going to read into your report to check whether you've actually delivered. We are going to check in the school which you said you will deliver that bursary. Did you deliver that bursary? We read the roads that was promised, that was never built. And we remember the company that arrived at our school and promised a bursary that they never delivered. I didn't know the words license to operate then, but I understand now that all along we've been auditing companies like that. And people in communities across this country are still auditing us today, every day. And this is why I refuse to accept that corporate affairs is a support function. Support functions respond to decisions that are already made. What I'm describing is a function that shapes the decision before it's made, because it understands better than anyone else at the table what the country, its communities, and the stakeholders around the business will tolerate, and what will ultimately cost that business their trust. And that is not communications, it's strategy. And it is also, I would argue, nation building, something we don't actually credit ourselves for. Because here's the truth none of us likes to say plainly enough. Government cannot build this country alone. They have the mandate, but not the reach. Civil society, similarly, they have the proximity, but they don't have the balance sheet. But this is what businesses have. They have both, the capability and the capacity. And increasingly, in a country working to rebuild public trust in its institutions, business is one of the few actors left with enough credibility to convene the people who no longer trust each other. That convening power does not sit in CEO's office by accident. It exists because corporate affairs build it, relationship by relationship. Those images you see on LinkedIn, those meetings that you never see happen, it's corporate affairs building relationships in communities, in government offices, and in civil society meetings. And this for Telkom is also not a theoretical thing, and I'm saying this with the greatest of humility, because I know several organizations sitting in this room today are doing that even much better, and for the longest time. I've watched peers in the sector fund programs without needing a stage like this one to justify them, and that is the version of corporate affairs I adore the most. The one that keeps building when no one is applauding. For our part, through the Telkom Foundation, this past year alone, over 47 learners received academic support. Over 21,000 young people came through our ICT and digital skills programs, and more than 1 million lives were reached through psychosocial support initiatives alone. I'm not giving those numbers to say congratulations to Telkom. I give it because behind every one of those numbers is a person with ambition and potential. And our responsibility, all of us, is to make sure that communities we create, these opportunities that we create are relevant, sustained, and capable of actually changing a life, not just a headline. So when I hear a function described as the people who manage perception, I want us to correct that all the time when you hear it. We do not manage perception. We manage the relationship between what an organization does and what a nation becomes of it. This is a bigger job than any balance sheet. It's time we carried ourselves like we know it. I also want to say something about AI. I'm sitting with a professor of AI who's bragging about, I'm the top professor in Africa, Google me. Technology will keep getting faster and producing our words, Professor. It will not get faster at any trust, because trust was never a content problem. Trust is a character problem, and character cannot be automated. The organization that will remain trusted a decade from now will be the ones where a human being with judgment chose the harder right over the easier choice, and corporate affairs was in the room when that choice was made. So, to every corporate affairs leader here tonight, my ask is simple. Stop asking for a seat at the table. I think everyone is writing about that, but we are not acting on it. Walk in there already carrying the only thing you carry, the clearest read in the building of whether your organization's actions will hold up against the trust of the people it depends on. That is not support, it's leadership. Claim it. And finally, just to ride on Mamzulu's speech, Madiba did not build a legacy by attending galas. He built it in the years between them, in the decision made when no one was measuring their applause. And that is the standard we must carry at corporate affairs. Not what we say here, but what we choose from here and beyond. Thank you.